Welcome to the Smorgasbord podcast, episode 15, where we talk about a variety of different topics, uncensored, unedited, and unfiltered. Today, it's just me, and boy, oh boy, there's a lot to talk about. Fucking hell. I don't know where to start. So, obviously, for those who don't know, if you don't know, you're living under a fucking rock. But there was a case in Minneapolis where George Floyd, a black man, got again killed. Another police brutality where, like, again, a cop killed a black man for no reason. And at first, I didn't really pay attention to the topic because I was like, okay, it's another one of these. And again, a lot of people are not gonna. They're gonna talk about it, but that's gonna be the gist of it. I didn't look more into it, and I'm like, okay, well, he's choked. Obviously, knew how he died and all that stuff, but obviously, it was a big power trip by the cops because he did nothing. There was no resistance. He just did it, do it, and because of public outrage, he was arrested, not because he murdered him, and he was charged with third-degree murder, which for those who don't know out there, that's unintentional murder. When in reality, he was on his neck. He was begging for him to get off. He refused to get off, and he died. So this sparked national outrage. And the past 2 days, there have been riots, uncontrollable, crazy destruction, the tear gas, all of it, all the stuff. And, me living in Georgia, it's like 20 minutes away from where I live, like downtown Atlanta, it's just been destroyed. The first time I watched it was probably the most entertaining for me. But on a grander scale, the rioters during the protest ruined the message that they were trying to push. Because at first, when you notice at the very beginning of it, the beginning of the riots were always peaceful. They were peaceful, they were just protesting. Calm, nothing unusual. Then the night came, and then all the people who wanted to start things started. And while personally, I believe peaceful protesting, it's turned into for me personally, it's turned into such a fad, and they'll do it for anything that it's lost its meaning. So, do I believe in violent protesting? Yes, but here's the issue: there's no organization, and instead of doing what they were meant to do, was to send a message, they started destroying things that had nothing related to them, and thus ruined the message. Like, for example, the official College Football Hall of Fame in downtown Atlanta, Georgia, was looted and destroyed. Cars were lit on fire, and things were just there was utter destruction everywhere. And it was a bunch of fools who wasn't really part of the message. It was a bunch of, again, mostly kids, and this is the point of it. Personally, I believe that there should be violent protests, but there should be organization. There should be organization on what to do. You're just going out there, if you're hot-headed, you're going to go out there and be like, I'm tired of this. And the sad thing is, they want to be unified against this entire thing. But the problem is, a lot of the black community don't even like you. They're not unified themselves. You're not united within each other. And I've lived it. So it's clear. So again, they say they want to do this. They want to be part together. They want to come together. They want against this a bigger threat. They can't even come together in their own house. And that's the issue. And that's the biggest problem. That's why personally I can't really get behind the Black Lives Matter movement completely. Because though, yes, the message is good. Yes, you shouldn't. Police brutality is obviously wrong. He didn't deserve to die. I don't care what he was arrested for. You have to also take into account of the fact that if on any other day, we wouldn't have cared. And I say we because including myself, because I am black. I'm part of the black community. I'm not saying all of them. There's obviously people who care, obviously who are obviously going to do things. But instead of vandalizing the College Football Hall of Fame, which is completely stupid and unnecessary, looting stores, there's videos surfacing of rioting, of people going in the malls and they're stealing Gucci. What is that going to gain? What are you going to gain from that? And that's why the mayor was telling y'all to send home. Go home. Go home. Because you've lost the message. And the message is gone. And that goes for everywhere. That goes for California, which, they'll obviously handle it because they deal with riots on like a day-to-day basis. Minneapolis is where it started. So it's obviously the butterfly effect all across the states. And what it's turned into, it's honestly turned into people who want stuff. And they're stealing all these things that are unnecessary, and they've lost the message. And it's right back to our ignorance. It's right back to where it's setting us back than us forward. And the funny thing was with this entire thing, after the first night of the riots, there was a second. Obviously, last night there was a second one, which was really just a bunch of people who missed out on the first night and were trying to get more free stuff. But by that time, the people were already prepared, so they moved out all the things that were valuable, and they put a curfew at 9 o'clock. If y'all don't go home, we're going to arrest you. And I was like, all right. Well, obviously, people aren't going to abide by that unless forced. So I was there for it. I wanted to watch to see what was going to happen. So really, and then this was down here in Georgia. And then the same time stuff in Washington was happening. Antifa was starting stuff, and a lot of white people thought it was just a black thing or just a minority thing. When in reality, it didn't about the whole arresting and the whole process of things. When it really is, it comes down to the class system. It comes down to money, and they are about to learn very quick because this isn't over. This whole rioting thing, this is just the beginning. It's gonna start again. It's gonna keep going for a little bit, and at the end of the day, truly, it's the people forget, which is good to know and good to understand, but at the same time, understand individuality is that there's only truly one race. That's the human race. Point blank period. I don't care what color you come out, what your eyes look like, what your face looks like, what's between your legs, and what's on your chest. Doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything because at the end of the day, we are one race of creature, and the whole thing is run by money. And again, they decide the minority by three things: what do you do, how much do you make, and where do you live? It's those three things. Because you even look at it because again, the way the system works, it's more of a, you have the 80% who are the poorer people, or the poor people, the 19%, which is the middle class, and then the 1%, which is the rich. And the stimulus check, which was sent out during this tough time for coronavirus, before this entire thing, was made for the poor. It was made for the rich. It was not made for the middle class. And the entire thought process of controlling the money is that's where they truly decide a lot of things. And the reason I bring that up is I bring it back to last night's riots. It was majority from what I've seen on the news, it was majority white people. And they thought that, okay, well, again, black people getting arrested. So it's more of a race thing. And I'm like, okay. And they did the same thing. Where do you live? How much do you make? And what do you do? Step over here, please. But I'm not a minority. But that's for minorities. Step over there, please. Because that's what you are. They do it by money. Again, it's like, if you didn't, I feel like it's like, I'm trying to remember. It was like if anybody who made under 150,000, I think, got the stimulus check or something like that. But again, the rich, and there needs to be, and again, you need to have. Sorry, I'm stuttering. You need to have more organization. There needs to be more control within us, because we can't go out there in general as people. We can't go out there and think we're going to get a message by just running out there, and then whatever happens happens. And there's a right way of doing things. And do I believe peaceful protest is the right way? No, because it's overdone, it's overused, and it's lost its meaning. Do I believe violent protesting is? Yes, with control and with organization. We were the first night. Nobody was organized. They went out there because they were upset, and they just went out there and they destroyed things. And in doing so, we paid a price. We lost the leverage of our message. We lost the leverage of the attention of what really matters, because of people who wanted to misuse that opportunity of all colors, wanted to misuse that opportunity to put a message through. And again, and there was an organization, and now looking back on it, they're not gonna understand what it was. We're gonna forget what it's about. Looking back on this point in time, we're gonna be like, oh, they rioted and they destroyed the National Football Hall of Fame, the National College Football Hall of Fame downtown. They were just they graffitied the CNN Center. They broke into the CNN Center to destroy the police place in there. Or I can't remember the name of it. It was like something to do with the police. They graffitied the sign that said "fuck 12." They did all this stuff, and they're gonna remember that and not remember what it was for. They're gonna remember what it's for, but after that, the message will be lost. And a lot of people, and I don't like how they're making excuses for it. I don't, people, white and black, green, purple, blue, yellow. I hate that people are making excuses like, oh, well, you're talking about it, right? And I'm like, yeah, we're talking about the wrong thing though. We're talking about the riot. We're not talking about the message and how, yes, it is wrong. He shouldn't have done it. He shouldn't have gotten third degree. In my opinion, he's getting off. And everybody wants to be united for a certain thing, but again, this will die down like all things do, because guess what? People forgot about coronavirus because they were outraged enough to go outside around hundreds of people. These were the same people 2 weeks ago who were saying, if you don't stay inside your house, you're stupid. And guess what they did? They went outside the house in a group higher than 10 people to go protest, which turned to a riot, which lost its message. So you're just out there destroying things, and it means nothing now. It's lost all its meaning. And guess what? We're gonna go back. It's gonna go back. This is, like I said, this is just the beginning. There will be more. There will be more. But like all things do, people move on because we have the attention span of fish, and that's an insult to fish. Because again, we move on this quickly. And people will be like, we'll stay with it because it matters. It's a problem. It's an issue. No, it's an issue within our own community. Again, we hate each other, and this is what I'm talking about. Not everybody. So as far as the black community, what I've experienced, we don't like each other. We're not united enough to go face the world. We can't even handle stuff inside our own house. So how are we going to face the world when we can't handle ourselves? And the biggest thing to that is that a lot of people are going to get upset about that. I'll give an example. The number one problem in the black community is colorism. Colorism, and me being a biracial kid, I am black and Puerto Rican, I have dealt with the comments of, I am not black enough because I am of lighter skin. And the whole battle of light skin versus dark skin is the most ignorant shit I've ever heard in my 15 years of existence. Because guess what? Light, brown, dark. You're all fucking black, you nitwits. And it doesn't make sense. And they're going to be like, oh, you talk like a white person. I'm like, no, it sounds like I read a fucking book. It sounds like you didn't. Because again, it goes, and I'm guilty of it as well. I'm guilty of it, and that's the problem. It's been so subconsciously and consciously injected into us that we're like sitting up there and we'll think, okay, he's light skinned, so he's softer, dark skinned guy. He's tougher. He's more rugged. He's more blacker because of they dialed up the sun more. and he's darker. And I'm like, doesn't make any fucking sense. Because and 9 times out of 10, I've heard that from a black woman. 9 times out of 10, I've heard it from black people. You're not dark enough, and it's the same thing for because I'm half black, half Puerto Rican. The Hispanic community is the same way. What you're not Hispanic enough because you don't look like it and you don't speak Spanish since you were 2. It doesn't work like that. And that's the problem. We're so worried about fixing everything else but ourselves, and we can't. And then when people talk about ourselves and say there's an issue within ourselves, we need to fix it, and that needs to be our top priority. The people who acknowledge it are going to get attacked. They're going to get offended. The other people are going to get offended. And if there are people are watching and they're offended by what I'm saying, you snitch on yourself because you're probably that. Because I'm not saying, because personally, I could be wrong, which is why I'm going to probably have more people on from other perspectives talk about this, because this is what we need. This is part of the steps forward, according to our steps forward of action. We need to have perspectives on all. We need to have inputs from people of all perspectives, because if you don't do that, your vision is so narrow, and that of course your thing is going to, of course your decisions are going to be biased. But the problem is that it's going to be so much here, you're not going to see anything else. And you need to, if you broaden the viewpoint, you'll be able to make a decision that's better for all people. They will, and in the long run, will help you more because you're including all people and all perspectives, and you think more instead of with emotion, because a lot of it was emotionally fueled. I'm not saying you shouldn't be angry. It is very okay to be angry. It's very okay to be upset. However, you can't go out and you can't destroy things and be like, and justify like, well, they killed us. I'm like, yeah, but you've ruined the message. So you're a hop skipping away of being the same thing as the cop with his knee on his neck. Again, I don't agree with the cop, but I also don't agree with the rioters, of no matter what fucking color they are. It was wrong. It was a waste of time. The whole message was lost. And they were just throwing firecrackers at people the second night. And they got sent. They ran off really quick. Because all it was a bunch of stragglers who wanted to get free stuff, and then they realized they were too fucking late. So they got sent home. Of all colors, too. Of all colors. Still wasn't just black people, it was white people, too. They were getting, I saw them getting punched as well as black people were, and people were saying there's an outrage, there's a level of anger, all this other stuff. And I personally, looking at it, I'm like, as a younger black man in this country, looking at it, I'm like, okay, while your heart's maybe in the right place, you shouldn't go out there and give us a bad name. It's people like that who give us a bad name. It's people like that made Trump said these thugs need to stop. We're not thugs. No one, I don't believe anybody's a thug unless they act like it. And it's got nothing to do, and for me, it's got, for him, obviously, it's like a code word for the N-word. But if you act like that, because again, a lot of people don't understand the N-word, nigger, means ignorant. And when you act ignorant, you've then given that name power. You've given that word life because you've given it something to belong to. If you don't act ignorant, it means nothing to you. People called me that since the first time I got called it. The first time I got called it, I was 4 years old. And through my entire life, I knew what it meant. And I was never offended. Why? Because I knew I wasn't that. It's wrong. It's not justifiable. It's not justifiable for anybody to say it, really. Especially in a derogatory manner. I don't care who you are. But I personally never got offended by it because I knew I wasn't. I was educated enough to know what it is. and I knew how to deal with it. And I knew that at the end of the day, it's directed towards me, but they're not talking to me because I am not part of that community. I am not part of ignorance. I am not ignorant. And a lot of people out there were ignorant. They went out there fool's-hearted with their emotions and their heart on their sleeve, which isn't a bad thing, but they came out there unprepared and unplanned and uncoordinated, and they just went out and just destroyed things. And again, I'll keep saying it again and again. And it sounds like I'm repeating because I am, because this whole process is repeating over and over. There was no organization. They just went out there and they did shit, and they turned it from a protest to a riot with the sun setting. And it's wrong. It's wrong. It's 100% wrong. But again, we don't even. But yeah, like I said, going back, we keep getting off track. Colorism, it still exists. And I'm not saying it will never go away because again, we don't always have to always like each other. But the whole stereotypes of light skins are seen as, because I'm considered brown skin, which I don't even know when the third party even came from. It's some bullshit because we're all fucking black. Light skins are seen as the softer, weaker black. We'll go by male, and then we'll go by female. We'll show you how wrong it is. As a black male, you're seen as a softer, weaker man because you're lighter. The darker you are, the more manly and the more attractive you are to the black female. This is my experience. The black female, the lighter you are, the more appeasable and the more likely you are willing to get with said black person. Because again, they see dark skin, the darker you are, the uglier you are. And the lighter you are, the more pretty and the more visually captivating you are, which is wrong. Because beauty is beauty no matter what color, and a man is a man no matter what skin color. So it's actually it's the opposite ways for both genders. If you're dark skinned, they see you as uglier. Then if you put a light skin, the same height, same weight, they'll take her. Why? Because she's lighter, and it's colorism. And 9 times out of 10, who is saying this? Black people. The insults are coming in within our own community. These are our own choices, and we want to go ahead and be united when we're one, and we have. I personally believe, through my experience, we're one of the more racist, interracial racist communities, and the Latin community is the same way. Because I'm Puerto Rican. All these Mexican dudes saying I'm not Hispanic enough because I didn't speak Spanish since I was 2. I don't speak Spanish. I can read it, write it, can't speak it. That's neither here or there. And again, I don't look like your stereotypical Latin kid. I just look like a light-skinned black dude, and that's it. And when I tell them that, they're taken back. And while it's never bothered me, because again, it's ignorance, which is a big thing, and a lack of education, all that other stuff, and just a lack of knowing. So you can't really get mad at a fool, because a lot of them are foolish, and they just don't, and they're ignorant, and they don't know. But even the Latin community, they don't like each other. They don't like each other. Don't, and all that, and all their grievances, instead of staying between their community, they're staying inside their house. They bring it out to the street in front of a bunch of people who just simply don't give a fuck. They just don't. They don't care, and they bring their grievances, bring their problems. You have to keep their problems inside the house. You have to deal with them, and you need to go ahead. And once you do that, and you come to a consensus, like, hey, guess what? You're manly because you're a man, not because you have lighter skin. Or you're beautiful because you're beautiful, not because you're darker, because you're lighter. And you're not weaker of a man because you're lighter. Or you're not stronger of a man because you're darker. You're not uglier because you're darker. It's wrong. It's just point out wrong, and no one wants to talk about it, because when you say it, they're like, no, all that other stuff. Yeah, if you're getting offended by this, you're probably part of the issue. Again, and I'm willing to have other opinions, willing to have other people talk about it. It's not right. And until we deal with that, because again, I talked to a lot of my. Again, I'm gonna have other perspectives on this because again, I'm learning like everybody else is learning. Still very young, so this is just my opinion. None of this is stone cold fact. This is what I've experienced. This is what I've taken back from it. I could be right, or I can be god awful wrong, or somewhere smack dab in the middle. I don't know, but again, I'm gonna talk to a lot of people, and I'm gonna see where this goes because it's important to have other perspectives. You have other perspectives, you can make a really more logical, conscious choice that's not driven by your complete own bias. And again, colorism is a big part of it. A big part of it is like not even just in the black community because I see it in the Asian community. They don't like each other. So a lot of people don't like each other. I don't remember which one it is. Black people don't like a lot of the whole thing of light skins versus brown skins versus dark skins. One of the most ignorant fucking things I've heard in my life. And in the Latin community, they don't like each other either. Like Puerto Ricans, Dominicans want to say they're not. The darker Dominicans say they're not black, and I'm like, excuse me, and it doesn't even make any sense. And it's just overall, it's wrong. It's just a waste of time. So yeah, this isn't going to be over. I personally believe that we need to stop making excuses, and they'd be like, "Oh, you're talking about it. You're talking about it. It's got your attention, hasn't it?" And I'm like, but the message was lost. There's no more. There is no more. Yeah, we're fighting for the injustice. We're here to make a point that we're sick and tired of the bullshit. Da 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 da. Fine. If you have organized violence, more power to you. Go ahead. If they do anything about that, they're wrong. But the fact that you sat up there, turned it into something else, a more childish impulse, a more ignorance. You gave the name. You gave the word ignorance and you gave the word thug life. There were no thugs. And then when the rioters happened, those were the thugs. White, black, Mexican, Chinese, whatever race they were. Thugs. Those are your thugs. And the thugs ruined the overall picture and the overall message. And do I see it changing anytime soon? No, it's going to take time. That's okay. But the first step to finding a solution is acknowledging and accepting that there is a problem, no matter if you agree with it or not. No matter if you like it or not, understand that there is a problem. It needs to be fixed. It is the top of our priority. That should be on the top of the list. Go ahead and do that. You're like, okay, cool. You do that, then you take steps forward and you find a solution that's acceptable for everybody. And then you have organized protest that's peaceful or organized violence, but you're not going there robbing the malls because you want another TV or you're getting free stuff. You're not robbing the Louis Vuitton store. You're not looting the Gucci store, which serves nothing. You're not going to the end of the College Football Hall of Fame, which serves nothing to your message except that people are looking back like, huh, these people were right. And I'm like, they weren't right. They're just thugs of all races from all places. Plus, especially in downtown Atlanta, it's like you're destroying other black businesses. Like 9 times out of 10, they're owned by black people. You're destroying other black businesses. You're not hurting anybody, really. Except the only people that you're trying to represent in a way. I don't know. So, overall, I think it's stupid. And I'm going to talk to more people about it to get more opinion. Because, again, I didn't dive in on this whole thing completely when I first started looking at it. When it first happened, I waited because I didn't want to be part of that. And it's just, and yeah, so this isn't over. I just know that it's going to keep happening and it's crazy. It's a crazy thing. And 2020 will go down in history because again, this is another thing they're gonna remember. But we're not gonna remember the right things. We're gonna remember the wrong thing, and it's not gonna be good. But yeah, that's what my opinion on it was. But the second thing is that the next step, so the next step of it would be like, okay, what do you do to take? What would you say are the right steps? And a lot of them are going to say now, considering a future at stake. This is obviously the year we need to elect a new president or whatever, a new leader for the next 4 years, and people are going to forget that. And so we have the elections coming up, and the big thing of, okay, who are we going to vote for and stuff. Sorry for the random cut. Computer messed up. Anyways, but yeah, for when it comes, the next step to it would be, okay, we should vote for new leaders. We should have new people representing us, a more variety of people. And while that is true and it should happen, do people have to vote? No, because I personally believe that no matter what, voting or not, you're doing what you're practicing the choice that people fought for. Because a lot of people, and I had this discussion I have with my mom as well, is that if you don't vote, you're throwing it back into the face of all the people who fought for the right to vote. And I'm like, okay, fair. No, I disagree. I disagree because they didn't fight for the right to vote. They fought for choice. They fought for the right of not being rejected at the door and having the right to be like, okay, if I want to do this, I'm going to do this. If I don't want to do this, I'm not going to. But I want to have the choice to be like yes, instead of always being told no, and actually having a voice. And you're still going to be voicing it and have that because it's always going to be present. Again, back in 2016, a lot of people didn't vote. Why? Because they voiced their own opinion. It was right. It was right, completely just and completely correct. Because they looked at both candidates. They looked at Hillary Clinton, saw that they didn't represent that she didn't represent them or their ideals. They looked at Trump. They saw they didn't represent, so they withheld their vote. And in doing so, they made the choice. They practiced it. Their they practice what like my mom puts it, their forefathers or whatever fought so hard for. They're practicing it. They're practicing what they fought for. And the main thing they fought for was choice. Choice on everything. Choice to be like, again, if you go back to Rosa Parks, choice to be like, I want to sit in the back if I want to, because I have to. But if I want to sit in the front, I'm going to sit in the front. I'm going to sit wherever I want to, because I want that choice. If I'm going to sit in the back, it's because it's my choice, not because you force me. And the big thing lost is that there are going to be a lot of people who are probably not going to vote again because they don't agree with both sides of the party, whatever the case is. And personally, I believe Trump will get reelected based on how it's going. Though nobody's really paying attention to elections or politics at this point because, like I said, our attentions have been on everything else. But based on how people's attention spans are and how they'll switch from thing to thing to thing to thing, it won't matter. They will they'll hop right back on the politic train and we'll go back to being more divided as ever over another different topic. And it'll be the same thing over, and history will keep repeating itself. And people are not learning about how to stick together in general, because at the end of the day, we're all one people. It doesn't matter. And I talked about it briefly with a couple of my friends about it, and I said that about this whole thing I've discussed so far, the riots, the whole situation, the case of George Floyd, colorism, all that stuff. And the big question that posed out there for all my friends out there, or people over there around who are of multiple race, who are mixed, as they would say, mix, or the more proper term, biracial. Uh, what are your guys' stances? What do you guys look at it? Especially my black and white friends. And all of my black and white people who are looking at this. How do you have to feel? Because though I feel like some households are tense, which is like how my mom age was like some households are gotta be tense, the black and white ones right now. And I'm like, if they care. Because at the end of the day, there are gonna be people who think like me, who look at each other and they're like, okay, you're not those white people, I'm not those black people. We love each other no matter what. It doesn't really apply to us. And life will carry on. And so, and then you're gonna have people who are tense, who are looking at each other about to tear each other apart because they're looking at the media and all that stuff. And for that, I just want to know for all the people, and even, not even just black and white, for everybody who's of two races, whose parents are different races, in general, I want to know what your perspective on all these things are. Put them in the comments or message me or whatever. But I want to hear other perspectives and other sides of the story because I'm very interested on the whole perspective from other side. Because my perspective of it was because on the other hand, I'm lucky because I'm not white and black in the way of those communities are always the top two butting heads. But at the same time, well, unfortunately, because I am part of the Latin community and the black community, and those two in themselves have been proven to be very self-destructive in my experience. And when you put them out in the real world, they're putting out all their issues that know in front of people who don't really care. So again, the question is where's the next? What do you think? What is the next? What are your opinions on it in general? It's for anybody out there who has an opinion on it, will have to speak about it. Because again, people are scared to talk about it, which is wrong. People are scared to talk about anything, which is wrong because they're scared of hurting people's feelings, getting hurt, and getting destroyed. Personally, me, I have to still be careful, even though if it were up to me, it really wouldn't matter to me. I'd be like, if you're upset, don't watch it. Or, please be upset. If you're upset, please come talk to me. Because I 9 times out of 10, when I have a guest on here, or talk to somebody in general, I prefer when they disagree with me, or their viewpoint is so far fetched from what I believe. Why? Because it sparks real conversation. If you go out, if you ever had, which you probably have, anybody out there, have had a conversation with somebody who agrees with everything you say, down the point, there's nothing to talk about. It's just a lot of nodding and yeah, I like what you think because it's what I think. And it's just a bunch of nodding nonsense. I went to a Model UN meeting, which is basically the whole United Nations. It's like a fake that for kids. And we're discussing things, and we're on a time limit. But it's a span of like a whole day. I'll tell you that 60% of that was a bunch of people going up there saying, we agree with what the previous country said. We agree with what the previous person said. We agree with this. We would also like to agree. We would also like to let you know we agree. And I finally went up there and be like, okay, I would like to say that we should move on because we're wasting our time. And we're just sitting up here just saying, I like what you think, nodding yes, yes, yes. And nothing's being discussed. There's nothing new being learned. There's nothing new being talked about. There's no ideas. There's no problems being talked about. There's no solutions being made. Same thing in the real world. Same thing with all those other people. When you talk about the George Floyd case, or you talk about the entire riots and all the whole perspective of the black community, communities in general, the human race, technology, medicine, whatever you want to talk about. I would much rather prefer someone who doesn't agree with me, so far-fetched doesn't agree with me, and will come up and And while I do agree with that, what I don't want is someone who won't push the conversation forward, who will sit up there and be like, "You're wrong," because I'm right. Because the amount of times that's happened to me personally is absurd. Yeah, it's just a matter of, it's a level of, "You're wrong." I'm like, okay, I don't want to be wrong. Help me be right. Why am I wrong? I've caught this from adults and children, which is the funny thing, which goes to my next point of that being an adult is a mindset. And a lot of people don't know that, surprisingly, no matter how many times people stress it. Being an adult's a mindset. A lot of people at the riots who were rioting were children, both figuratively and literally, but more figuratively. And they're mentally children. And their mentality are thugs. No matter what race, they have that mentality of an ignorant person. And again, all this stuff ties into each other. And they don't understand that it's not going to solve anything. It's not. And the people who are justifying the riots and all that stuff are just as ignorant. They don't have to go out there to show their ignorance, because people, you're going to learn a lot of things from people when they're really upset. You want to know how people truly think about you or truly think about something? Make them upset. Make them mad. Make them upset. That's how I learned a lot of things from a lot of people, is that they were upset and they said what was on their mind. Because when you're, again, and it's the big problem with emotions, which is what happened with the riots. There's no process, there's no time for them in your mind, there's no time to think. It's just go. There's no time to pause and consider and process. There's no process, there's no exit strategy. It's just go. Keep going until you stop, until you want to stop. Not because someone makes you. And there's no process of thinking. There's no process of any stop. It's just go. And that comes with actions as much as words. People, you understand how many people you'll think you're your friend, that you get them upset, and they'll say, "God, I always never liked this about you. This is why you're this. This is why you're that." Those are the fake people you got to watch out for. And if they say that in their anger, and then they try to come with the excuse, it was out of anger. I say, but it's also what you thought. So I'm good. And it's the same thing with what people do. They want to go ahead and preach peace and all that stuff. This is for both aspects too. They want to preach peace and all that stuff. Those are the same people out there when outrage happened and being like, "Oh yeah, I don't like when people destroy things meaninglessly." Those would be the same people 2 nights ago who went to the Gucci store department in the mall and robbed and stole their belts. So this has been an episode of the Smorgasbord podcast. Thank you all for watching, and bye.